Looks like we have another cow calving out there. Sorry, it's kind of shaky, but this isn't the best setup for this. Looking a long ways away out. We'll just keep our eye on her and see how she does. So today, I don't want to make another calving video. It's a video about calving, but it's about a question I've been getting a lot lately, especially now as the channel's kind of grown quite a bit, and it's more than just my family and friends that are watching. I wanted to answer a question I get all the time. And that question, to make it YouTube friendly, is why in the heck would we calve in the middle of winter? So as I go about taking care of calves and doing my chores this afternoon, hopefully I can explain it to you and give you guys a better understanding of why we do what we do. I can promise you it's not because I love calving when it's 30 or 40 below or in the middle of a blizzard. We've got better reasons than that for doing what we do. It's been about 2 hours since that cow gave birth, so I'm just gonna head out here and check on everything. Then before I left my house, I could see from my window that I got another cow out here calving. I don't know how well you can see from this far, but it's an older red cow. She's right here. Walk out there and see if I can get a little footage of it. It goes. It goes. It goes. And you can see the feet sticking out right here. So it's close enough to feeding time. I'm gonna let the rest of these cows out so they're not following me everywhere. So hopefully that just leaves us this calving cow right now and the newest mom. So this cow right here, number 9, she's the one that just calved earlier. Guess she's hungry. I'm gonna leave her calf. So guys, I'm just gonna leave her alone for a little bit. So I think I'm getting pretty stressed out because every time she lays down, she has like 3 or 4 contractions, then she gets back up and moves. So she feels like I'm chasing her around. So I'm just going back into the house. I get my vaccines and tags ready for that calf we had earlier today and deal with it, and probably by the time we get back out here she'll have a calf on the ground. So as I was saying, this is a comment that's been coming up more and more in the comment section. So I just wanted to take this opportunity and try to explain ourselves a little bit better on why we do what we do and why we calve in the middle of winter, because some of them comments are almost a little hateful. Asking pretty much what in the heck we're thinking, why would you even want to do this, what's the point of it, just pretty much telling us that we're stupid. So for me, there's pretty much one reason that I start calving the first part of February usually, and that reason is our range permits. So I'm sure some of you are familiar with how range permits work, and I actually did a video on how our range permits work last summer, and I'll put a link to that video at the end of this one in case you want to watch it and kind of get more of a detailed video on how the range permits work. But maybe there's some of you out there that don't know how range permits work or what they are, so I'll just kind of explain them pretty basically here real quick. So how our range permits work is basically we have the opportunity to rent national forest land from the government, and we pay the government X amount of dollars each summer to rent that land, and that amount is based on how many head of cows you put up, like how many AUMs, what the fencing costs are, what the range rider fees are, and just all that is added together, and you pay that to the government, and that gives us a chance to rent land in the national forest. So rent or lease, or however you want to word it, that's pretty much what it boils down to. So this range that we put our cows onto, there's also 6 other families that put their cows onto the same range. And so starting, I don't know how well you guys can see this map. Starting June 6th, that's when we put our cows up on the national forest, up on our range permits. And on that day, our herd mixes with all other 6 families' herds. So then you get one big herd getting all mixed together on June 6th. Then most years, if the weather treats us right and it's not too dry or any forest fires or anything like that, and there's enough water up there for the cows, we'll bring the cows home on October 10th. So we have these permits. So, what does it have to do with us calving in the middle of winter, starting in the first part of February? Well, it has a lot to do with it, because when everybody puts their herds up on the range, their bulls go up on the range with their, their herds. So no matter how late you wanted to start calving, your cows are going to start getting bred on June 6th when they go up on the range. Even if you didn't put bulls out there, they're going to be mixed with your neighbors, with their bulls. So their bulls are going to be breeding your cows. So no matter what, your cows are going to start being bred on June 6th. So I don't know how well you can see this, but this is a gestation table for cattle. So it gives you a date. Like if your cows are bred on this date, this is when they should be due. So let's go down here to June, and let's just go to June 8th. That's a pretty good number, date. Just because, let's say it takes a couple of days for your cows to get settled down, the herds to settle down, and this is the day that your cows are going to start getting bred. So June 8th, your cows start getting bred. So that means that your cows are going to start calving March 17th, no matter what. So let's say you didn't want to calve your cows out until May 7th. Well, you look at the date here, that means you couldn't put the bulls in until July 29th. So unless you got the whole cattle association to agree that nobody's going to turn their bulls out until July 29th, your cows are going to start calving in the middle of March. So you might think, well, why don't you just get the association to all just not turn their bulls out till July 29th? So like I said, June 6th is when you go out on the range, and let's say you're not starting to calve till that first part of May. So that only gives you 1 month to calve out all your cows and hopefully have some size on them calves to even get them up to the forest, because it's a little bit of a cattle drive to even get them up there. So then once you get them up there, it's not some flat lush grasslands. It's mountainous, rolling hills, sagebrush. So it's pretty rugged terrain. So even if you got some of your cows calved out and some size on some of them calves, they're probably not going to do super well up there because it's such a rugged pasture, really. So then it leaves you with the problem of what do you do with the rest of your herd, like the ones that wouldn't have calved out before June 6th. You can't just send your whole herd up there and have them calve up on the range, because you're mixed with 5 other families. So if everybody's cows are calving up there, you got a sneaking mess on trying to figure out whose calf is whose, and so it just turns into a big mess if you even thought about that. So some might say that though, don't put your bull out till you go up on the forest. So June 6th, just start calving in the middle of March. But do you know what I hate more than the cold and the snow? I hate mud and I hate rain, at least in wrong times of the year. So in this area, for the most part, the end of March through almost all of April is nothing but a mud season. All the snow that you see in these, in our videos, all the snow that we get all through the winter, usually about the end of March, in that first half of April or so, that's when it starts melting. So then everything around here just turns into a mud pit. You got mud and standing water, and it's just a mess. So that's what you'd be looking to calving into, is just that muddy mess. I was talking to another rancher that just ranches a little bit east of us, and that's what he was saying, that that mud and the sickness that comes with the mud, that kills more calves than the cold and the snow ever will. So I try to avoid that season, the best I can, because I just hate calving in the mud. I hate dealing with the mud, and it's just hard to keep a lot of them calves from getting too sick. So I get kind of frustrated with some of these videos I see on YouTube, and people kind of giving their opinions, and a lot of times I feel like they don't take into account like the uniqueness of every area. Talking to a lot of you guys on YouTube, like everybody has their own problems to deal with. Like I was talking to a guy out on the West Coast, last week, and he was saying that they were worried about some Pineapple Express, where it's just a continuous flow of moisture into their area. So, it flooded them out and they're dealing with mud. Then talking to some other guys that are worried about drought and not getting enough rain. So, ranching in Star Valley is very unique. You can't compare it to them guys that ranch out on the Midwest, or people that ranch down in the Southwest, or even the people that ranch on the eastern side of Wyoming. You can't compare that to ranching in the Star Valley. All these guys that say, well, just calve in April and May, when the grass is coming up. Well, let me show you a picture from last April, and a picture of my driveway and what it looked like around here. April 2nd last year, and just show you the amount of snow that we still had on April 2nd. Then I want to show you another picture, and this one is from May 2nd, that same year, last year. And that's how much snow we still had on the ground on May 2nd. So all I'm saying is that Star Valley is a unique area, and we're not going to ranch the same as some other place. You know, everybody's just got their own factors that they have to deal with, and do what works best for their operation. I feel like in agriculture, most of us are pretty independent, pretty stubborn, stuck in our ways type people. And it seems like there's only two ways of doing things. There's either the wrong way or my way is pretty much how it feels like things are. But I try not to be like that. I try to be pretty open-minded and take opinions or comments as they come in, or take advice from people, because I don't feel like you learn or grow when you're so stuck in your ways that you can't see other options. So let's circle back and kind of go over some of the reasons why I calve in February and not any later in the year. So as we were saying, May, anything after May is too late. Your calves aren't going to be big enough. Half your herd won't be calved out to take full opportunity of these range permits. So May's out of the question. So then that drops you back to the middle of March. Like I was saying, I just hate the mud season. I really believe that mud and the rain and all the moisture is way harder on calves than the cold and the snow ever would be. So calving in February, it might be cold and snowy, but usually most years it's clean. It's the ground's frozen. You don't have to worry about rain. I mean, this year's pretty abnormal, but for the most part, you're not having to worry about those things. So that's one of the reasons I like calving in February. Is it's usually pretty clean to calve in. You're not having to deal with all the mud and the filth that comes with it, so you don't really get all those sicknesses that come with the mud, like the scours and everything else that comes with that. So I'm calving in February because I want to try to avoid the mud season. I want my calves to have some decent size on them before they go up on the forest, just so they can do as well as they can. And then thirdly, I want my cows to be bred back to my bulls before they go up on the forest. So once you send your cows up on the forest, if they haven't been bred, who knows whose bull's going to breed them? Not that our neighbors run a bunch of crummy bulls or anything, but let's say you pay a bunch of money for a high-dollar bull, and then you send your cow up on the forest that hasn't been bred. You probably want that cow being bred back to your bull, just for if you want to have some certain genetics, or whatever reason you have, you probably want to be using your own bulls to breed back your own cows. And that doesn't always happen. I mean, I know I send cows up on the forest that haven't been bred back, because after a certain date, once they start calving after a certain date, that these cows were bred up on the forest, and it just happens. It's not a big deal, but that's one of the reasons that I start calving when I do, is just to try to breed my cows back to my own bulls. So I try to put my bulls in with my cows, so they start calving on February 1st. So where did I come up with that date, February 1st? Like, why did I start calving on that day? So to calve on February 1st, that means that my bulls went in April 25th. And here's the reason for that. It's all because of my cow's heat cycles, or just any cow in general. So in general, a cow will have a heat cycle every 21 days. So we could really get into the weeds on this topic, but to keep things simple and basic, we'll just say a cow will go into heat once every 21 days. So what that pretty much means is, in a 21-day span, there's only one day in that span that cow can get pregnant. And if she doesn't get pregnant, on that day, it's another 21 days before she cycles again and goes into heat again that she'll have the opportunity to get pregnant again. So what I like to do is I like to give all my cows 2 cycles, like 2 heat cycles with our bulls. So to do some easy math real quick, 2 heat cycles is 21 days times 2, so that's 42 days. So the way I get my date on when I turn my bulls in is I just go I start at June 6th, so that's the day that we go up on the range. I count back 42 days, which takes us to April 25th. So if I put my bulls in April 25th, that means that my cows will have 2 heat cycles with that bull, no matter when they started their heat cycle. So let's say they were just finishing up their heat cycle right before I put the bull in. So they're going to have a heat cycle, maybe 17 days after I put the bull in. Then they'll have another heat cycle 38 days after I put the bull in. But it's still gives them that chance to have 2 heat cycles with the bull before they go up on the range. And like I said, I know I don't get all my cows bred back before they go on the range, because if I have a cow that calves a little bit late, you know, if she calves at the end of April, like when I put the bull in, she's still got probably, you know, at least a couple months before she's even ready to be bred back. So I just, you know, you just know that that'll probably be a range bull that breeds her, and then I mean, you just have to deal with it. There's not a whole lot that you can do about that. And like I said, it's not like our neighbors are putting up crappy bulls, so it's not that big of a deal. It's kind of a difficult subject because, you know, a lot of people get so passionate about the way they do things that it's kind of difficult to talk about this, or, you know, the reasons why we do things. So I hope that makes a little bit more sense on why we start calving when we do. So I know in a lot of my recent videos I've been talking about how mild our winter's been so far. So I just want to throw some temperatures at you and really show you how this year compares to last year. So if you look here, here's our weather forecast for this week. Today the low was 33 and the high was 38 degrees. So if you look at the rest of the week, most of our highs are close to 30 degrees and most of our lows are barely even getting into the single digits. That's actually a pretty big cool down from what we've been experiencing over the last 2 or 3 weeks. And over these last 2 or 3 weeks, we've been experiencing like end of March temperatures, and that's kind of why we've gotten the mess that we have out there, you know, where the cows are at. So looking at these temperatures, I want to compare them to almost the exact same week last year. I know last year was a record-setting year and it was a brutal winter, but just I want to show you these temperatures and just show you the contrast from this year and last year. So last year on February 9th, the high was 12 degrees and the low was negative 17. February 10th, the high was 16 degrees and the low was negative 18. February 11th, the high was 19 degrees, the low was negative 9. February 12th, the high was 21 degrees and the low was negative 9. February 13th, the high was almost 18 degrees, wow, the low was negative 13. February 14th, the high was 25 degrees, the low was 7 degrees. February 15th, the high was 10 degrees, the low was negative 15. February 16th, the high was 10 degrees, the low was negative 22. February 17th, the high was 12 degrees, the low was negative 18. February 18th, the high was 23 and the low was negative 17. So that was almost 10 days straight of below zero temperatures that we were experiencing last year. Compared to this year where it already feels like March out there. So honestly guys, if we didn't have these range permits, I wouldn't have any problem starting to calve May 1st. Like if we were calving on private ground, private pasture, that's probably what I'd do. I'd just calve them on, you know, starting May 1st. You wouldn't have to worry about these 30, 40 below days, the blizzards, and, you know, everything else that comes with calving when we do. You know, but then again, I've had some cows that calved super late, you know, got into that May month, and I mean, I've lost calves in May that, you know, calved in May. So I mean, I don't think it matters what you do. You're always going to have some deaths, some complications that arise, but I think you just do the best you can to avoid those and take care of them when you can. I think it only took me, you know, 5-10 minutes to drop my vaccines and get my tag ready. She already had that calf, so I'm glad we left when we did. Just let her do her thing. So we'll take care of this calf first, and we'll go check on the new calf. Seems like this calf's doing good. It's got plenty of strength and hops right up. Mom's mothered up. So we'll just leave him alone and go on to the next one. Hey, go. So it seems like our calf's doing great. He's already standing up and it's only been maybe 15-20 minutes. Looks like he's already trying to nurse also. So I'll just do the same thing with this cow and calf. I'll just leave them alone for a couple hours and let them do their thing and get mothered up, and hopefully that calf gets some colostrum in him. out of all the places that cow could have calved, that was probably the best one. So I've been trying to feed up a lot of this rained on hay that we had, you know, from last summer. And on these warmer days, they don't seem to like to eat all of it up. And there's, you know, a bit of waste over there in that corner. That's where she went and laid down and had that calf. Like I was saying, that's probably the best place she could have found. It's nice and dry over there, and she had that little bed of hay that she calved in. I even tried to keep a pretty nice bed of straw for these cows. I even laid out a few more bales just on this bed just a few days ago, and you can see how soiled and wet it is already. That's just what happens when we have these warm temperatures and get that little bit of rain. You know, things start puddling up because there's nowhere for the water to go, because you got an ice layer on top of the ground, and usually the ground's frozen, so the water just sits on top and just pulls up there. So this is one of the reasons that I start calving in February, because these are the conditions that I'm trying to avoid. This year's just been such a fluke year, such a mild year compared to what it usually is. I know these calf huts are lifesavers for me. You can see all this water that's pulled up around them just because the cows kind of like to, you know, group up around here. And you can see the water's even starting to go inside the calf hut a little bit. There's a calf in here. But usually when I drag these calf huts out here, there's a decent amount of snow. And this year was pretty similar. So there's a pretty good snow bed right here under all this straw. So where that calf is at, it is actually sitting a bit higher than this outside ground here, just because of the snow that's under it. You know, because that snow is not going to melt because the straw is insulating it. So this stuff out here is actually lower than what's inside here. So until things really warm up, you know, in like May or something, that snow under there probably won't melt. Then you come over to this one though, pretty much the same situation. You got a bit of water around the outside here. Then you look inside here, nice clean straw bed for them to get into and take shelter. So this year all these temperatures we're having in February are really abnormal compared to last year. I don't even think we had a day above freezing until middle of March last year, and pretty much since the middle of January we've been in the mid-30s. You know, we even touched the 40s a few times, and it's been pretty consistent. Like, we've had almost 2 or 3 weeks of this weather where it's been mid-30s and low 40s, and it's just making a mess of things. You can see our cow and calf over there already journeying this way. Well, it's been about 2.5 hours since that other calf was born, so we'll run out there and take care of him. These two alone and go check on all the other ones. It's always impressive, that calf just being, you know, 2.5 hours old, and it's that strong already, you know. That's a pretty strong calf. Got up and got right going. So I'm just heading out to do a night check on the cows and calves. Check on those 2 new calves we had today and see if we have any new ones. So here's our calf that we had earlier today, the first one. Easy cow. Checking his mouth. Easy cow. So his mouth's funny warm and seems like he's getting plenty to eat. So they seem pretty good. we'll find that other one, the newest one. Because, as you look into here, we got a whole bunch of calves in here. Looks like there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 or 9. So you can see how much them calves like those sheds. That's only one of them, you know, 1 out of 3. So then if you look right here, here's our newest calf. I don't want to bother him too much because she's got that calf right in a good spot there. But it seems like he's doing great too. He's up and standing by his mom when I got here, so we'll just leave them be. Well, you guys, all the cows and calves seem like they're doing good. Our newest calves are doing good, it seemed like, and we didn't have any other new ones to worry about. So I hope this video shed a little bit of light on, you know, why we calve in the winter and why we do what we do around here. Just made things a little bit more clear. I got a nice warm fire going, so I'm gonna sit down and relax for a minute. So hope you guys enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching. Have a good day. You gonna sit by the fire too, Piper? Huh? Who's a good puppy?